Welcome to Ladies of Another View on Back. I am Mary, and I'm coming at you from Belfield, North Dakota at the Trapper's Kettle. We're so excited to be here, and our first guest is Diane Buckman. Diane, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to be part of your show.
Well, you know, when I talk to people of the area, I try to find historians, people who know a little bit about the history, and your name kept popping up.
Really?
So, yeah, and that was just fascinating. So why don't you kind of tell us the history of Belfield as you know it?
Well, I think one of the reasons my name kept popping up was those videos I did kind of during the virus. I was trying to kind of keep myself busy, and the winter was so dry and the weather was so warm that I could go out with my camera and kind of spend the time videoing different places. And I got out the old papers and I started reading papers about an empty lot like the lumber yard, and everybody wanted to hear about this piece of land that didn't have anything on it anymore.
Sure.
And so that kind of kick-started me on my I guess renewing what I was brought up in over the 50s, because I guess I'm retired, 72 years old, so I lived here until I graduated in 67, so I kind of heard a lot of history and lived a lot of history during those times.
So I understand, though, that the Belfield itself started out as Camp Houston.
That's true.
Yes, so
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Well, now this kind of goes back a few years, and there's a big sign actually on Main Street, right down by the Heart River, and it's got a nice wording about how the settlers were coming and they had to have protection, so they called it Fort Houston as well. So then the railroad came in, and then there was a railroad engineer by the name of Field, and his daughter's name was Bell, so they renamed it Belfield.
Oh, that's really a fun story. Whenever you hear the origins of the town, it's always so interesting. But I understand too that this was actually a relay station from Bismarck to Fort Keogh, and now Fort Keogh is actually in Miles City, so it was kind of a relay station too for the covered wagons, etc. And then they had talked about how the camp, they were protecting the surveyors of the area for the railroad.
That's right. That's right. They had to have a lot of protection actually, just because it was Indian territory, and so it just kind of it was peacefully, everybody coexisted, that kind of deal. But there's a little site south of Belfield where Custer camped, and then if you go a little further west of Belfield, it's where Initial Rock is where some of the Custer's soldiers actually put their initials in the rock over there.
Is the rock still there?
It is there.
Is it open to the public?
It is open to the public. It's not far from Belfield. Just go to Freiburg and you'll find it if you put it in the GPS.
Great. You know, that's just what we're trying to do, is get people off the beaten path and check out these smaller communities. You know, you said Custer came through the area. Do you know how long he camped? Was it just one night, or was he here a couple of days?
It wasn't very long. They were on the go.
And I understand you can also see his wagon train trail. Is that still visible?
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Is there a sign that a person can read when they see that as well?
I'm not sure about that. I think it's visible. You can just see this kind of wagon trail. So
sure.
And it's in the grass.
Right. And so then doing a little bit of research, I found out that it was platted in 1883. And then, excuse me, in 1889, there were 27 citizens, and they voted to ratify the state's constitution. Excuse me. And then 18 of them had actually voted for prohibition, and that was in 1889. So kind of interesting.
That is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. So I understand that there were a couple big fires in the area. Tell us about that.
Oh. Well, according to the documentation, Belfield started on the south side
of the railroad track.
Of the railroad track, yeah, south side. The railroad track goes through the middle, so the south side is where it started. They had the fire, so they decided they'd rebuild and build on the north side of the tracks. So that's what happened. But now, as you come through town, you will not really. There's Main Street that travels all the way north, south, all the way. It starts at Highway 10 and it goes all the way to the Conservation Dam. And And there's housing on the south side now, which is kind of new since the 80s, really. But
Right, because this is oil boom territory as well, right?
yes, it is kind of oil boom territory. So the south side we got built up, and the west side is now built up, and new baseball diamond, and so things are happening here.
Oh, that's fun. You know, a few notes that I had found, and I want to say it was C.C. Thompson that put some information together, and unfortunately he passed away about a year ago, but just
Yes.
a treasure of information. I understand that they're trying to get his goods together to open a museum.
That's right. Jody Arthod is working on, actually Cindy Nelson, his daughter, or his daughters actually had two, Susan and Cindy, and they lived in the hardware store all their lives, graduated and left. But Sonny just kind of kept all this material about Belfield at the hardware store. So he's got piles of information, and it's really a treasure right there. So
It is.
I'm really appreciating Jody Arthod for preserving that building.
Right,
So-
right. And so just a few other dates that came to mind when I was doing some research. They said in 1906 to 1908, there were a lot of Hollanders that came through the area because they heard of the $1 million land deal.
Yes.
And then in 1908, many businesses and then ranching kind of gave way to farming a little bit.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and that Hollander house exists today. So if you're driving through town, and if it's right off 85 here, right on the north side of town here, it's a kind of worth driving by to see it.
Oh, great. And you said someone recently purchased
That's
it?
right. The Hollanders owned it, and then maybe you have the research on the fellow that went back to Holland, because the $1 million project just didn't pan out, actually. And so he went back, and the Hollanders really didn't find the ground that they wanted. It wasn't fertile enough to grow crops anyway in the way they were doing. So they actually moved into little different places further east, maybe over to South Hart are a lot of the Hollanders. And so he sold it to the Kessel family, and so Phyllis and Mildred, they had it and raised their family of 16 children there. And Tom Kessel, the youngest one, just sold it to a family with cribs, and they have 6 children. So it's a
wonderful.
house full of children.
Oh,
again.
that will be great, just to kind of keep the tradition alive and well right here in Belfield.
And Tom did a beautiful job of preserving that building. He put on new siding, new windows, new roof. So it's in great shape, almost like it was in 1906 when the Hollanders built it.
All right, Diane, we have simply run out of time, but you know, there's so many more things that people can learn about the Belfield area. So we encourage you to come on out, take a day trip to Belfield, North Dakota, and see what it has to offer. And we'll be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Back.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: Burley's Rough Rider Bar and Steakhouse, Melissa Curl, Century 21 Morrison Realty, Rusty Rail Saloon.
Lori Hins here with No Apologies on Beck. You've got a movie.
Of course I've got a movie. What do you mean?
You are the
You've
king
got
of
a
all
movie?
media. How silly of me, where we bring you our after-hours oasis of sanity.
You're going to see that this is an intentional destruction of the United States in 3 very intentional ways.
Every Saturday and Sunday
There was not a single pro-life women's voice in Congress at that time.
on Beck and Beck.News.
Now you can have the personalized forecast at your fingertips when you need it. Beck's exclusive Weather Insight is information tailored to you. Radar, weather alerts, forecasts, and videos. Download the free Weather on Beck News app. Search your app store now.
If you don't know what's going on in education in this country, then you don't know what's going to happen to the future of this country. It's important. I'm Dr. Duke.
And I'm Katie. Watch the Dr. Duke Show weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV.
Howdy, and welcome to Dakota Cowboy. Here on Beck TV, I'm your host, Wild Bill. The character and legacy of the American West comes to life. We'll strive to give you a glimpse of the rich history. I've seen the toughest cowboys in the state of North Dakota. I've had a front row seat to those whose passion has been the preservation of history. We invite you to come ride with us into the future. Dakota Cowboy here on Beck TV. Situated on the banks of the Heart River, Belfield is home to hard-working people who love their community. Belfield has been part of the oil field for several generations and is the gateway to the North Dakota Badlands and Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Here you will find great restaurants, beautiful churches, affordable real estate, and fun activities for everyone. Belfield, North Dakota, the gateway city to the West.
Tattoos can tell you a lot about a person.
Their zodiac sign, favorite Looney Tunes character, or who they bank with.
Our banker Amanda is so committed to our success that she even fills in when our entertainment unexpectedly cancels.
Where do fish keep their money? In a riverbank.
She's a better banker.
I don't think they can hear me.
Yeah, way better. You seen her with the numbers?
That's great.
Located at the intersection of I-94 and Highway 85 in Belfield, Trapper's Kettle has everything you need for your next visit. You can join us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Trapper's Kettle Restaurant and enjoy a variety of home-style cuisines. Or you can walk across the parking lot and visit our Rendezvous Lounge and enjoy some pizza from our pizzeria. If you plan on staying the night, we have you covered. Make a reservation to stay at either of our motel buildings at the Trapper's Inn or spend the night on our campground. Trapper's Kettle, stop for a meal and you'll want to stay for a weekend.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: the City of Belfield, James Oil Well Service Incorporated, Bridger Pipeline,
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We are coming at you from Belfield, North Dakota, right here in the Trapper's Kettle. And we are so excited because Harold is the owner of the Trapper's Kettle and Inn and all kinds of things going on around here. So Harold, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You know, when people come through here, this is a landmark. Tell us about the Trapper's Kettle, how it started and how it came to be.
Well, it started in 1980. I had the truck stop across the street. I wanted to add on to the restaurant. Amoco Oil wouldn't let me do it. So I said, I'm going across the street and building a restaurant. And that's how it got started. And I came over here in 1980 to this side of the road. I had already bought property and built a motel here, so I needed a restaurant. And it became Trapper's Kettle. I was a trapper back at that time, and I figured the theme fit the area quite well with the Badlands and the wildlife. So that was my goal. And
well, perfect. It's like you really have quite the establishment here. And so I see that there's a lot of traps on the wall. There's a lot of animals. There's a lot of prints. There's a lot. It's almost like its own mini museum. Tell us how that all came about.
Well, that's kind of what I tried to do with it. I wanted it to be more than an eating place. I wanted it to be a destination where people would come in and there was things they could look at and see and enjoy the stay or the can't think of the word. The atmosphere.
Just the atmosphere, right? Yeah, no, and it is wonderful. So I understand too, you have been, or I've been told that people call you the Colonel Sanders of Belfield, just because the food is so good here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your menu?
Well, I can't. I've got very little to do with the menu anymore because my son and my granddaughter are managers and they make up the menu and do that. Now, I'm just the overseer.
I see. And so, but it's not just a restaurant. You come in here and around every corner there is just lots of things to look at. So as far as the animals, are they things that you hunted yourself?
Pretty much. I and my sons and daughter-in-law, we've taken most of the animals with archery. It's all been bow and arrow, pretty much. very few have been taken with a rifle. It's pretty much all bow and arrow.
Oh, great. And so tell us a little bit about the trapping history of this area, because I know in the 1800s the trappers were here before anybody else was.
Yeah, they were, but I don't think they trapped this area a lot back then. Little Missouri had a lot of beaver on it, and there was plenty of wildlife around, but as far as fur bearers, there wasn't all that many on the Little Missouri. They were all on the Big Missouri River. But there were some resident trappers back in the 1800s here. So a few of them, but I can't tell you their names. And they didn't become famous. They just squatted here and trapped here. Yeah.
And they didn't sign your guest book either in 1980, I suppose.
No, they didn't. No.
100 years too late. Yeah. And so it's not only just a restaurant here, but you have a hotel. I see that there are, you can bring your horse along if you want to. Do you have people that use the stables, or tell us a little bit about it?
They get used, not on a regular basis, but people hauling horses long distances, they've got to let the horse out of the trailer, and if they want a place to stay at night, they got a place to put their horse. And so it gets some use, but it's not a big deal, but it's an extra service we can provide.
Sure. And then I noticed too that you have almost like a mini fort over there. Tell us the concept of that.
Well, that was our swimming pool, and we built the fort around the swimming pool. And since then we have abandoned our swimming pool, and we're in the process of deciding if we're going to rebuild the fort or tear it down. But it's just a visual thing right now.
Sure. And it just gives it some more of that rustic flavor and feel of the Old West.
Yeah.
Right? And I know it's hard to keep an outdoor pool in North Dakota because our seasons, even when it's hot, it could be, 50-mile-an-hour winds and it's a dust storm. So it's, I can understand why an outdoor pool doesn't do that well.
Well, we didn't have a lot of demand for it because people would come, and most of them are going to Medora. They get a room here, and they'd go to Medora, but they wanted a swimming pool. Well, they didn't have time to swim. They'd get here, they would head right to Medora, they'd go to the musical, they'd get back here late at night. So the kids would get up in the morning, maybe they'd get a chance to go for a little dip before they headed on down the road. But it was used more by local people than it was by tourists, yeah. So.
Sure. And so then you also, over by the hotel, you do have some old covered wagons and that type of stuff. Where did you acquire that?
Oh, we just picked it up at auction sales around my area, yeah.
Great. And it just
for decor items, yeah. They were never used in my lifetime, but they sat out here in the hills someplace until somebody decided to sell them.
Right. Well, and it's just saving that little bit of history, and I think that's what's so important. And even walking through the hotel, and you also have a lounge inside the hotel, correct? So it's not just the restaurant here, but you have a lounge.
The Rendezvous Lounge, yes.
Rendezvous Lounge. Yeah. And so, what are the hours on that?
Well, it varies. Usually open at 4 o'clock, and then it depends on if it's busy at night, they'll stay open later. But we have a pizzeria there too, so. They will be open till 9 o'clock every night, but some nights they're open till midnight. Yeah.
Sure. And so if you wanted to talk to our viewers and tell them why do you think, what makes Belfield so special? Why should they come check you out for a day trip?
Well, basically it's the location. We've got the interstate here and the major Highway 85, that's the north-south best route to Texas or wherever you're going.
Well, I think it's the Can-Am Highway, Canada to Texas or to Mexico.
Right, it is. So we get a lot of traffic off of Highway 85.
And so what makes you special? Like, why should they stop? Just the atmosphere, the history?
Well, it's a destination. They know, the truckers know if they get here, they got a place to eat, they got a place to stay. We've got truck parking in the back, so there's no problem with parking. And if they want a alcoholic beverage, they can get that at the Rendezvous Lounge. So.
Sure. So people can stay for a day, stay for a weekend, or come stay for the lifetime?
Well, we haven't had too many lifetimers. But the city of Belfield, we've got people coming and going. We've had 3 different oil booms here over the years since I've been here, since 1967. And so there's new people coming in all the time with the oil, and old people leaving or retiring and leaving. So
Sure, so plenty of places to be here.
Yeah.
So Harold, we have simply run out of time. I want to thank you for joining us today. And we will be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Beck, coming at you from Belfield, North Dakota.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: Old Highway 10 Auto Service LLC, All Around Tire and Oil, Belfield Automotive Supply, Napa Auto Parts.
Parents, listen up. Here's what your kids are being taught in public school: that there's no difference at all between boys and girls, that every white person is racist, and so is math. Supporting Black Lives Matter and social justice is more important than reading and writing. And thanks to Joe Biden, teachers unions just got tens of billions of dollars in COVID cash to push all this in front of your kids.
That's right, and we want to make sure you not only stay informed, but have the tools to fight back. So watch the Dr. Duke Show weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV.
We are rewriting Hollywood's script for our kids. I'm pop culture expert Tina Griffin, and as a former Hollywood actress, I'm giving you a behind-the-scenes look at how today's entertainment is eroding the foundational development of America's youth, and how to safely navigate this pop culture chaos. Knowledge is power. Parents want solutions. It's time to get the power back in your hands and reclaim the right to decide who and what should influence your kids.
Weekdays at 2 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV.
Situated on the banks of the Heart River, Belfield is home to hard-working people who love their community. Belfield has been part of the oil field for several generations and is the gateway to the North Dakota Badlands and Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Here you will find great restaurants, beautiful churches, affordable real estate, and fun activities for everyone. Belfield, North Dakota, the gateway city to the west. Howdy, and welcome to Dakota Cowboy. Here on Beck TV, I'm your host, Wild Bill. The character and legacy of the American West comes to life. We'll strive to give you a glimpse of the rich history. I've seen the toughest cowboys in the state of North Dakota. I've had a front row seat to those whose passion has been the preservation of history. We invite you to come ride with us into the future. Dakota Cowboy, here on Beck TV. Located at the intersection of I-94 and Highway 85 in Belfield, Trapper's Kettle has everything you need for your next visit. You can join us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Trapper's Kettle Restaurant and enjoy a variety of home-style cuisines. Or you can walk across the parking lot and visit our Rendezvous Lounge and enjoy some pizza from our pizzeria. If you plan on staying the night, we have you covered. Make a reservation to stay at either of our motel buildings at the Trappers Inn or spend the night on our campground. Trapper's Kettle, stop for a meal and you'll want to stay for a weekend.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: The Right Move with Angela Haverlook and Home and Land Company, Ukrainian Cultural Institute, the City of Belfield.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. I am visiting with Tanya Bolts. Tanya, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, so Tanya is the manager of the Belfield Theater and Performance Center. I want you to tell us all about that. Tell us how it got started.
The Belfield Theater was originally built by Mr. Olenek back in the 1950s, and it was ran by him for many years, and then it's changed hands, and then for a period of time it was quite a bit ran down, and then it was ran by volunteers within the city. And then in 2016, Natalie Morato, who was the city auditor at the time, took it on as the North Dakota Leadership Project. And she got a bunch of grants and donations and renovated the theater.
Oh, fun. And so was it not being used at the time?
It was open a little bit sparingly here and there, just whenever they could get a movie, but it was still ran on the old film. like the reels at that time.
Okay. And so as far as what did they do to update it?
Everything was really redone. Structurally the building was fixed up. They brought in a huge big screen theater or screen with all updated equipment. So it's all run off a computer. So there's a huge projector and updated sound system, and we did updated the bathrooms, made the bathrooms handicap accessible. The concession areas, all was cleaned and repainted and just made to look more modern and nice and new.
Okay, so I understand that it's not just a movie theater, but it's actually a live performance center. Tell us about that.
That's correct, yes. As part of the actual renovation project too, they did extend the stage out a little bit bigger so they could make it more accessible for plays and things like that. So we do get a couple local groups from Dickinson that puts on a play in the spring and in the fall every year. University of Mary has helped us quite a bit. They've come in and done different plays there and actually some short films. And then even this last year, the Belfield High School came in and did their performance there this year.
All right, and I understand too that it's open for recitals?
Yep, we've done music, we've done dance recitals, we've done choir performances, we've done concerts, a lot of different events. The events do really well. They're kind of fun and bring something different to the community.
Right, and so most of the talent that comes through, is it local, or do you have I think they're called troops, when they come from, say, Minneapolis on their way to, the West Coast or something like that? Do you ever get out of state?
Yeah, we have, and it just kind of depends, but a lot of local stuff, but we've had the Land of Color, who's a Christian music band that has come and performed for us. So just kind of whoever reaches out, we try to include in and try to get some things going.
And then do you charge, when they have these live performances, I suppose the rate is set depending on what they're charging, or do you have a set fee?
Correct, yeah. And a lot of times we have, we do let church groups and the local schools and things like that come in there, and they use it a lot of times for free of charge, because we do want to keep it open for our community to use and have a place for them to do their performances and do their, and just have a gathering spot.
Oh, that's nice. And I suppose, with the grants that you receive, it just keeps paying back to the community.
Yes.
That's wonderful. All right, so you also have something downtown called the Pavilion. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the Pavilion, I guess I don't know a whole lot about it. It's run more through the Belfield Parks and Boards, but it's a nice little covered patio area that has a kitchen that's accessible, and then you can rent it out and I know they have a lot of reunions, birthday parties, different things like that. Every Wednesday night they have a meal there. That's sponsored by a different entity throughout the community, and then it's kind of used for a fundraiser for these different communities or different businesses.
A free will donation, or do they have?
I think they have a set price for that, but yeah.
And that's every Wednesday during the summer months
during
only?
The summer months, yes, correct.
Great.
Yeah.
And I guess that is kind of in the heart of downtown too, right?
Yes, it is, right on Main Street.
Perfect. All right, so if you had to tell our viewers why they should come to Belfield, whether it's for a day or for a weekend or even move their family here, what would you like to share with our viewers about Belfield?
Belfield is just a nice, wonderful community that has so many friendly people and faces, and it has a lot to offer. From our theater is wonderful. Come and see us. We try to show all different kinds of movies for every genre. That's not what I want to.
Genre.
Yeah. Of movies.
Real people, real news, right here.
Yeah. And so something for families, something for kids, something for adults, and but yeah, it's just a place where everybody knows your name and will be willing to give you a helping hand no matter what.
Oh, that's fantastic. And then when I think about the theater too, it's something that you can take your toddlers to on a rated G weekend, but maybe you're in your 80s and you just want to have a date. You can do that right here in Belfield.
Yeah.
And so as far as their concession stand, just tell us a little bit about that, just popcorn and a little bit of candy, or?
Yeah, we have popcorn, candy, sodas, all kinds of drinks. We even do Shirley Temples there. And our concessions are really reasonably priced. We try to make it so it's family friendly, so you can bring your family in and don't feel like you broke the bank just going out on a movie night. But we also offer like all the new releases. Like we are getting all the new movies. The DC Super Pets is coming out on July 29th, and we will have it at our theater on July 29th.
Wow.
So we try to do that, and if people request a movie, we try our best to bring that movie to town.
Great. All right. Well, I want to thank you for sharing everything that there is to know about the Theater and Performance Center, as well as the Pavilion. Thanks again for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And we're going to be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Beck from Belfield.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: Creative Energy, The Cup and Cake, North Dakota Energy Services.
Are you waking up in the morning with a sore jaw, headaches, maybe even ringing in your ears, all because you're grinding and clenching your teeth at night? That's exactly what was going on with me. That's when I found this, the Brux Night Guard. Now the Brux Night Guard redirects the bite force away from the back teeth, reducing jaw pain while still protecting the teeth. This unique design is what makes Brux Night Guard different from all other traditional grind guards. Go to bruxnightguard.com and order yours today.
We have always said, and will continue to say on this show, that it's not enough to just trust the plan. How can these people show their faces in public after what they have done to our children? This has been the reality in Mexico for close to 2 decades now. I'm thinking above that and beyond that, because I don't think these people give a damn about what you say or what my voice is.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: Old Highway 10 Auto Service LLC, All Around Tire and Oil, Belfield Automotive Supply, Napa Auto Parts.
Situated on the banks of the Heart River, Belfield is home to hard-working people who love their community. Belfield has been part of the oil field for several generations and is the gateway to the North Dakota Badlands and Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Here you will find great restaurants, beautiful churches, affordable real estate, and fun activities for everyone. Belfield, North Dakota, the gateway city to the west. Located at the intersection of I-94 and Highway 85 in Belfield, Trapper's Kettle has everything you need for your next visit. You can join us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Trapper's Kettle Restaurant and enjoy a variety of home-style cuisines. Or you can walk across the parking lot and visit our Rendezvous Lounge and enjoy some pizza from our pizzeria. If you plan on staying the night, we have you covered. Make a reservation to stay at either of our motel buildings at the Trappers Inn or spend the night on our campground. Trapper's Kettle, stop for a meal and you'll want to stay for a weekend. Howdy, and welcome to Dakota Cowboy. Here on Beck TV, I'm your host, Wild Bill. The character and legacy of the American West comes to life. We'll strive to give you a glimpse of the rich history. I've seen the toughest cowboys in the state of North Dakota. I've had a front row seat to those whose passion has been the preservation of history. We invite you to come ride with us into the future. Dakota Cowboy, here on Beck TV.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: the City of Belfield, James Oil Well Service Incorporated, Bridger Pipeline,
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We're coming at you from Belfield, North Dakota, and I have the pleasure of visiting with Father Marty Nagy. Father, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You know, it's so interesting because you are a Catholic priest, but you are not what everyone thinks of as Roman Catholic. You are, why don't you tell our viewers, or explain to them the difference?
Yeah, so I'm a Ukrainian Catholic, which is part of the Byzantine Church, and so our liturgies are like the Orthodox, but we've decided to live our Orthodoxy in communion with the Roman Catholic Church, with the Pope.
Wonderful. All right, so tell us the importance of, or how did there come to be a Ukrainian church out in Belfield, North Dakota? It's such a small community. Why don't you start right there?
So there was, back in the late 1800s, there was some economic and political strife. And so some of the folks from the villages in Ukraine migrated to the United States. The government gave them homestead property in western North Dakota here and said, you know, if you can make it work, you can keep the property. So they each got a 130-acre plot of land. First family, I believe, arrived in Gorham in 1896. And but people of strong faith, so even in those early pioneers, you might be driving today and come across the field and see a cross in it, but it's because those early pioneers so much depended on God. It was really hard living, that if they had a prayer, if they had a Thanksgiving, they'd erect a cross. If they had a tragedy, remembering God's mercy, they'd erect a cross. But by 1904, they had already started their first parish. And actually, it's my bishop's oldest parish, and my bishop's territory goes from Indiana to Hawaii. And with a short time after that, we actually had 3 parishes. But the first parish was named after St. Demetrius, which was the name of the church of the people's village where they came from. And so it was named after that. They built that first church. Unfortunately, in the 20s, it burned down, but by within a few years, they had a new church built. And so they not only came together to pray, but they really had an investment in the church. So the prayers in the church are as much the sweat labor that they put into it. And so they continued to grow as communities, large communities, but back in those days, they had to walk to church even in the snow, you know, so very faithful people, people of strong faith. And of course, I've heard about the faith lives at home of the early parishioners too, so very good. By the 40s, the pastor then, Father Barbersky, felt that St. Demetrius should have easier access, so he had it moved to 85, where it is now. They had a 40-acre plot of land, and he had the wonderful insight also to plant thousands of trees there. So we have this beautiful oasis surrounding St. Demetrius. But as the next generations started to go off to other jobs or get married or just couldn't make the property work anymore, they sold it to their neighbors. So it's not as dense in that area as it used to be because they have much larger farms, and the people moved. A number of them settled in the community there in Belfield, and so they built a wooden church there. But by the early 60s, they needed a larger church because so many people had settled there, and that's the current St. John the Baptist there. But then, you know, people moved to other places and through marriage joined other churches, but you can really see they took their faith with them. I am surprised by the number of people that grew up in our parish or their ancestors did that still make prayer requests. I get weekly prayer requests from other cities from people that are connected with St. Demetrius, St. John the Baptist, St. John Josaphat. People still come back from family reunions. They visit us. They come for marriages, baptism, funerals, and we even have a number of people that request that their last resting place be in one of our cemeteries here. And so we have a number of people return from other states. Strong faith community, but also the Ukrainian traditions. A lot of them come out of our churches, the Christmas Eve meals and stuff like that, where the Ukrainian food is so important when we celebrate feast days, just the Ukrainian food. The Ukrainian dance. We had Ukrainian festivals annually until COVID hit, unfortunately, and we haven't revived them yet. But, you know, the Ukrainian Catholic Institute has really partnered with us on those because, you know, back in, 1980, they founded the Institute to promote and preserve and display the Ukrainian heritage.
Okay, you know, that went fast, but we have simply run out of time. But I just want to make a point that there is a Ukrainian Institute over in Dickinson, and you can learn more history about the Ukrainians and what they're suffering right now over in Ukraine today. And so we want to thank you for joining us today and sharing that story. There's more to learn, so stop out at Belfield or Dickinson. I am visiting with Craig McLaughlin right here in Belfield, North Dakota at the Traverse Kettle. Craig, I understand that you are involved with the Lutheran Church. I know there's a lot of historical value to the Lutherans in this area. Why don't you share that with our viewers?
The first Lutheran church probably started about 1883, and they had circuit rider preachers or pastors coming at that time. One of the first ones we had was Ole Nordby. The church itself started in 1907, so the church is now 115 years old. It took about 2 years for that first church to be built because they had to save the money and do their food sales and different things to collect this money. Most of that was actually done with volunteer labor. And the first church only cost $1,700 to build.
Oh my gosh, you can't even get, I don't know, a center rug in a church for that right now. You know, the name of the first priest was Ole. There must be a little bit of Norwegian background in that church?
The first church members in this church, there was 39 church members, and they were all Norwegian, 39 charter members. This church in Belfield had Norwegian as the only language in the church until 1912. And in 1912, they quit doing the strictly Norwegian. They had a service in Norwegian and also a service in English. So, yeah, Norwegians were settling in this part of the country, and it was actually called the Norwegian Lutheran Church instead of like today where it's the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America. So yeah, this whole area was very much Norwegians.
So are there any historical priests or saints or sinners that came through the area? Any old stories like that from the church?
Oh, there's some stories, I guess, but it was mostly the circuit pastors that had the stories because they would come from as far away as Bismarck and Mandan and do this circuit to come out this way. The churches were probably called a mission church at that time, which means they were receiving money from other churches to even make a go of it in this country because the people didn't have the money to make a go of it themselves. So that was quite a deal, and the mission church lasted here until the 1950s. There were still other churches giving money to Belfield so they could have a church.
Great. You know, I visited with a lady before the show today. She talked about the church being moved from Belfield to Medora or Medora to Belfield. Tell us about that.
Well, actually, this church in Belfield was built in Belfield, and this is actually the second church we're in right now, and it was built in 1963. Now, in years past, there was 4 churches, and the church in Daglum, there was a church in Gorham and a church in Chomade, and then the Belfield church, and that's what the pastor covered. Well, the church in Gorham closed, and that church is the one that was moved to Medora in the 50s, and Medora renovated it, and now that is a church we use in Medora. It's a church that came from Gorham. So there is history there, quite a bit of history. So, and then with that church closing and the other church closing, now we were down to 3 churches: the Daglum Church, the Belfield Church, and the Medora Church. And even at that time, the Daglum Church, which is 15 miles south of here and 4 or 5 miles east, was the largest of the congregations. And finally, I would say in the 50s, Belfield took over as the largest congregation.
Great. All right, so we only have about 30 seconds left. What would you like to leave our viewers with as far as the religious community out here?
I would like to leave our viewers with the idea that all the churches in Belfield work together. We all run the food pantry, which is in the old parsonage building of the the Lutheran Parsonage building, and we all work well together. We do things together. The churches let us use their facilities, and we let them use our facilities, and it's one big family.
Wonderful.
It's not one against another. It is a family.
Sure, and I think that was really important to the settlers of this area. So Craig, I want to thank you for taking the time to visit and share with us today. And we'll be right back after this on Ladies of Another View on Back.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: Hurley's Rough Rider Bar and Steakhouse, Melissa Curl, Century 21 Morrison Realty, Rusty Rail Saloon.
Vote Beck TV for Best Local Television Station in the Bismarck Tribune's Best of the Best contest. Vote daily at beck.tv or scan the QR code.
Parents, listen up. Here's what your kids are being taught in public school: that there's no difference at all between boys and girls, that every white person is racist, and so is math. Supporting Black Lives Matter and social justice is more important than reading and writing. And thanks to Joe Biden, teachers unions just got tens of billions of dollars in COVID cash to push all this in front of your kids.
That's right, and we want to make sure you not only stay informed, but have the tools to fight back. So watch the Dr. Duke Show weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: Creative Energy, The Cup and Cake, North Dakota Energy Services.
Situated on the banks of the Heart River, Belfield is home to hard-working people who love their community. Belfield has been part of the oil field for several generations and is the gateway to the North Dakota Badlands and Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Here you will find great restaurants, beautiful churches, affordable real estate, and fun activities for everyone. Belfield, North Dakota, the gateway city to the west. Located at the intersection of I-94 and Highway 85 in Belfield, Trapper's Kettle has everything you need for your next visit. You can join us for breakfast, lunch, or dinner at Trapper's Kettle Restaurant and enjoy a variety of home-style cuisines. Or you can walk across the parking lot and visit our Rendezvous Lounge and enjoy some pizza from our pizzeria. If you plan on staying the night, we have you covered. Make a reservation to stay at either of our motel buildings at the Trapper's Inn or spend the night on our campground. Trapper's Kettle, stop for a meal and you'll want to stay for a weekend. Howdy, and welcome to Dakota Cowboy. Here on Beck TV, I'm your host, Wild Bill. The character and legacy of the American West comes to life. We'll strive to give you a glimpse of the rich history. I've seen the toughest cowboys in the state of North Dakota. I've had a front row seat to those whose passion has been the preservation of history. We invite you to come ride with us into the future. Dakota Cowboy, here on Beck TV.
My Hometown in Belfield is brought to you in part by the following: The Right Move with Angela Haverlook and Home and Land Company, Ukrainian Cultural Institute, the City of Belfield.
Welcome back to Ladies of Another View on Beck. We always save the best for last, and that's always with economic development. You know, here to talk about that today is Angela Haverlook. And I know you're not with economic development per se, but when I talk to you, you are just a wealth of knowledge about what's going on, and you're so passionate about this city, Belfield, that I just had to have you on. So tell our viewers what Belfield has to offer.
Oh, thank you. Belfield is just that small town community with big family feel. There's so much to offer here. We are on the intersection of Highway 85 running from Canada to Mexico and Interstate 94. Definitely a place of economic growth or development for our area, bringing all kinds of business. Some stay, some go. We have a lot of activities available here, and we've weathered through that oil boom, oil bust, oil break, whatever you want to call it. We do kind of have that fluctuation with the price of oil, whether we have a higher rate of, turnover of people in our community. In real estate, I get to see that from all different aspects, whether it's from a business or from a residential view.
Sure.
But it also impacts our schools, and we have an amazing school system here. It also impacts some of the activities that are available. We have some of those small town recreational activities. A lot of people look for that when you're looking for a place to live, and Belfield has them, but they're not all just out here to entertain you. Some of them are things that you have to look for that entertainment, to be able to make those memories with your family, or even to be able to take them as a perk to bring your business here.
Right. And so I understand that there's a bike trail that runs along Old Highway 10 that people can, just bike across the state and end up right here in Belfield.
Yes.
And then, of course, the highway is called the Can-Am Highway. But there's also the Custer Trail, and there's a day drive for vehicles. And part of that, one of the stops is right here in Belfield. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I did know that, but that's not something that I usually think about when giving the perks of what Belfield is. The bike trail that comes, we usually have in the later summer a huge group that come and they camp all throughout the town, and they have a big camp, or a big barbecue and camp out and stay near our dam park. And around there's just a small walking path or biking path, if you will. There's also fishing activities, and there's an archery range and a frisbee golf activities out there too. So
what's the name of the dam?
The dam park.
The dam park. All right, I thought that there was a name to the dam. Okay, well, go to the dam park. Right.
We'll see you there.
Yes, we will. And so there's just so many things to do out in that recreation area. Some people, it's just kind of a hidden gem, but if a person wanted to come for the day, they certainly could.
Yes, absolutely. Our Sportsmen's Club here in Belfield has maintained it very well. There's picnic and benches. You can fish. There's a little fishing dock. You can take boats out there as well, not motorboats, but you can do with a battery-operated motor, kayak, or
a canoe.
Canoe. You could do those as well. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. And something to do. Get out of the house, get the kids out of the basement, and go to Belfield. But I understand too that you guys have a little bit of everything. You have restaurants. You have coffee shops. You have everything that a big city has to offer, but within your small community. Why don't you tell a little bit about that part of your city? Like, what can they expect to find if they wanted to come over here for a day or Saturday evening on a date?
Okay, we have a few places to eat. Trapper's Kettle is one. Definitely morning to night you have breakfast, lunch, dinner. And they also in their facility have the hotel and the bar, the pizzeria, which has amazing pizza, by the way. For all the different, you can have young families, you can have old, if you want to take in a little bit of the lounge scene, the Rendezvous Lounge also. Downtown, we have Burley's Rough Rider Bar and Grill. Amazing food. They have great weekend, prime rib or salads. They definitely cater to those with a health conscious, and also they offer bingo on Tuesday nights.
And you have the Rusty Rail too. Both of them, by the way, are sponsors, Burley's and the Rusty Rail.
Awesome,
so downtown.
The Rusty Rail also caters bingo. They do both opposite weeks, and that's one thing that's really nice about our community. We have a hoedown in the fall, and the bars that they have work together together so that one night one may be able to be the host and the next the other. And they work together very well. And that's another thing that I absolutely love about our community is the support for one another.
Oh, and that is something, you know, you don't always find in a community. They're so competitive because everybody wants that bottom dollar. But it's like they understand that we have to share that. And that's what I find right here in Belfield.
Yes, and that encouragement of growth. It's not just only for me, it's encouraging one another because it really does grow our community, and in that it's the family, you know, the family that you get here. That's
sure. And I understand too, this is just something that I had learned in passing. You guys sold about 10 houses right here in Belfield in the last several months, that there were many homes that were bought and sold. And so there are homes available, so if someone wanted to move their family right here to Belfield, they certainly could.
Absolutely, and we have every different price break. You could be a small end home, very cozy or a fixer-upper, or something that's been finished. It's nice to have that small town with 20 minutes from the Dickinson, where you have a little bit more of that urban feel, but here you have the simplicity, the quieter streets, the smaller activities going on, but yet the safety that comes in being in a small town.
Sure, and then I suppose too, with as far as your school system goes, you'll have a lower teacher to student ratio, so they get more attention. They can, get more help than you would in a bigger city.
Right, and we've seen a lot of evolving come on since we've had this COVID come about to be able to change the way of teaching, and it gives a little versatility to that, and it's brought in some new teachers and new ideas to be able to create that environment for the kids to be able to grow.
All right, so we are out of time, but I want you to have the opportunity to tell our viewers, why should they come to Belfield?
Absolutely, Belfield is that hometown, family-oriented support. When you have one who's down, the others bring you up, and that just amazing opportunity.
It really is. And then you also have a strong religious community here too. There's like 4 or 5 different churches to choose from. And so, all right, well, we're out of time. Angela, I want to thank you again.
Thank you.
You bet. And then I just want to thank all of you for tuning in and viewing us right here in Belfield. We're at the Trapper's Kettle. You need to stop by, take a look at their menu, go on downtown, take a look at the coffee shops. There's so many things here to offer. They have mechanics, they have tire shops, they have it all right here in Belfield, North Dakota. We will see you next time out on the road somewhere in North Dakota.